China operates somewhere between 200,000 and 800,000 fishing vessels. That's not a typo. That's roughly half of all fishing activity on the entire planet coming from one country. Whether that's sustainable, it's not. Not even close. China's distant water fleet alone, over 11,000 vessels, worked more hours between 2021 and 2023 than the next 4 largest fishing nations combined. They've already strip mined their own waters, so now they're doing the same thing to everyone else's oceans. And the really fun part, a lot of these fishing boats are actually part of China's maritime militia, because nothing says just here for the halibut like being organized under the People's Armed Forces. And this isn't just about fish. This is about China using fishing vessels as pawns in a massive territorial chess game. Under international law, countries get an exclusive economic zone extending 200 nautical miles from their coast. That's your water, your fish, your resources. But China has a different interpretation. They've got up to 200,000 fishing vessels organized into their maritime militia. Basically, a paramilitary force with fishing rods. These boats swarm around disputed areas in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and anywhere else China wants to flex. They're not just catching fish, they're catching territory. In the South China Sea alone, over 232 militia vessels showed up at various features in 2024. At one location called Sabina Shoal, more than 200 vessels appeared in a single week. That's not fishing. That's an occupation disguised as a squid expedition. When the Philippines tries to assert their own EEZ rights, suddenly there's a fishing fleet in the way. When Indonesia arrests illegal Chinese fishermen, the Chinese Coast Guard shows up to interfere. It's genius, really. Plausible deniability with nets. What these fleets are actually doing to the oceans is genuinely apocalyptic. The scale of physical destruction alone is staggering. Between 2013 and 2017, China's island-building campaign in the South China Sea buried roughly 4,648 acres of coral reef. That's over 7 square miles of reef ecosystem completely destroyed. For comparison, Vietnam comes in second at 1,500 acres. China is responsible for 75% of all reef destruction in the region. The method they use is called cutter suction dredging. Picture an industrial drill slicing through a coral reef, pumping the sediment through floating pipelines to build artificial islands. The dredgers literally slice into living coral, creating massive clouds of abrasive sediment that suffocate everything nearby. Corals that took hundreds or thousands of years to form get destroyed in an afternoon. The surrounding water turns into a toxic soup that kills marine life for miles around and completely overwhelms the reef's ability to repair itself. But it gets worse. Chinese fishermen have also damaged an additional 16,300 acres of coral reef through giant clam harvesting. They use high-pressure water jets to blast apart the reef substrate hunting for giant clams, which sell for up to $100,000 each, because they resemble elephant ivory. Philippine Navy surveys of areas like Sabina Shoal found no live coral, almost no marine life of any kind, just a dead, discolored seabed stripped clean. Then there's the fishing methods themselves. Chinese fleets use industrial bottom trawling, dragging massive weighted nets across the ocean floor. These nets have metal doors weighing several tons, and thick steel cables studded with heavy balls that crush everything in their path. They're essentially rototilling the seabed. Coral forests that provide spawning grounds and nurseries for countless species get flattened. Sediment gets churned up, blocking sunlight and releasing trapped carbon. The damage can take centuries to recover if it ever does at all. Over 92% of fishing vessels that disable their tracking systems to go dark are Chinese. They do this so they can illegally cross into protected waters without anyone noticing. Around Argentina's waters alone, Chinese vessels turned off their transponders over 4,000 times between 2018 and 2021. The bycatch is catastrophic. Dolphins, sea turtles, sharks, juvenile fish all get scooped up and discarded, usually dead. In some operations, bycatch accounts for 90% of the total catch. They're not fishing, they're strip mining, and the results speak for themselves. In regions where these fleets operate, fish populations decline by 20 to 30% within 5 years. Chilean fishermen haven't seen Humboldt squid in 3 months. The South China Sea has seen fish stocks depleted by 70 to 95% since the 1950s. Bottom trawling alone releases an estimated 370 million metric tons of carbon dioxide annually, roughly equivalent to the entire aviation industry. Where are all the environmental activists, the ones who lose their minds over plastic straws and local fishing regulations? China is literally strip mining the oceans, operating what amounts to an underwater locust swarm. And the silence is deafening. These are the same activists who will chain themselves to trees, throw soup on paintings, and lecture you about your carbon footprint. But when it comes to calling out the world's worst environmental offender actually destroying marine ecosystems in real time, crickets. Maybe it's because China isn't an easy target. Maybe it's because standing up to Beijing doesn't get you the same social media clout as yelling at your local fishermen. Whatever the reason, the hypocrisy is absolutely stunning. Some countries have decided to get creative. Indonesia, bless them, has taken a particularly direct approach. They just blow the boats up. Since 2014, they've destroyed over 360 illegal fishing vessels, and it worked. Commercial fishing in Indonesian waters dropped by 25%, and local Indonesian fishermen are actually catching more fish now because the foreign industrial boats are gone. Argentina went a step further in 2016. When the Chinese vessel Luyan Yuan Yus 010 tried to ram an Argentine Coast Guard ship, they shot back and sank it. China complained loudly. Argentina briefly apologized. And then, hilariously, issued fishing licenses to Chinese-owned vessels the following year anyway, because apparently Beijing knows how to make a diplomatic complaint sting. Other countries have tried different approaches. Japan increased fines for illegal fishing to nearly $300,000. South Korea has used water cannons to drive vessels away. But here's the problem. These are band-aids on a bullet wound. What actually needs to happen? First, Western nations need to stop treating this as just a fishing problem. This is a coordinated state-backed operation that threatens food security, environmental stability, and territorial sovereignty. The US and its allies should be using the same tools they use against drug trafficking. Bilateral agreements that allow coast guards to operate across borders, real-time intelligence sharing, and serious diplomatic pressure. Second, economic consequences. China is the world's largest seafood consumer and is expected to drive 40% of the world's seafood consumption growth by 2030. That's leverage. Countries could coordinate to ban seafood imports from vessels with illegal fishing records, make it hurt economically. Third, technology. Satellite monitoring has already exposed the scale of this problem. Countries need to invest in tracking systems that can't be turned off, drone surveillance, and rapid response capabilities. China's fishing fleet isn't just depleting fish stocks, it's rewriting the rules of international waters through sheer numerical superiority. They're using fishing boats as territorial markers, environmental weapons, and geopolitical tools all at once. And they're getting away with it because most countries lack the resources or political will to push back. The oceans are being destroyed in slow motion, territorial waters are being encroached upon systematically, and the international community is basically just watching it happen. Some countries are fighting back, and frankly, more should consider Indonesia's approach. Nothing sends a message quite like turning an illegal fishing vessel into an artificial reef. But until there's coordinated international action with real teeth, China's maritime locusts will keep swarming. The question isn't whether this is sustainable. It's obviously not. The question is, how much more damage gets done before anyone does anything serious about it?